So Mark, this next guest that I'm going to bring on is I have so many awesome people that the Ripple has brought into my life, but this is one of those people that we started off as a business relationship and it's just evolved into this massive, amazing friendship. She is probably one of the brightest, smartest people that I know on the planet. And I know a lot of people. And so that's saying something. Aruna, thank you for joining us for tonight's Ripple, live stream.
Wow, what an intro. Hi, Steve.
Yeah.
Hi, Mark.
Hi, Aruna.
How are you guys doing?
Great. Yeah, we're doing fantastic.
Awesome.
Well, so Aruna and I met because she had been working as an intellectual property attorney for a firm that I was doing some business development coaching for. And she and I struck up a friendship. She is an entrepreneur at heart. It's just taken us 3-4 years to get her there. And now she's like kicking ass, taking names, and about to, become potentially the next big jewelry maker. I'm gonna put it out there publicly because if we don't do these things, then the pressure's not on for you to produce. So Aruna's like, great, thank you.
Right.
But yeah. Aruna and her family, they're just really special people. They're amazing. We're really lucky to have you on tonight. I really appreciate you making time to do this, and just so excited for you to be here.
Thank you. This is exciting for me to be here as well. When I first met Steve, I was in such a different place in my life as far as my how I interacted with people. It was totally transactional. That's what I was taught. The culture that my parents are from, that's what relationships are about. And so I remember the first few times I met Steve, he just blew my mind as far as like, oh, so, have you ever thought to ask people what their stories are or get to know people? And I, initially I was just like, no, I hate people and only interact with them when there's something that I need from them or they have something over me, so I have to give to them. What is this like getting to know people business? Blew my mind. Totally blew my mind. But, Steve, I've got to say, right now I am an IP attorney. I am a solo practitioner. And in the middle of the pandemic, I am killing it because, Steve, you just turned my whole understanding of people and relationships around, right? It's the relationships that I've been able to build since I met you that have really helped me thrive and flourish, even though we're unfortunately in the middle of a pandemic. And I know so many people who are being impacted so negatively by this, but I'm doing well because I took the time to get to know people and actually build relationships and stop seeing them as a transaction that I start and end.
Well, I think honestly, let's be truthful here. You didn't necessarily see it that way. I think you sort of assumed that was how it was supposed to be because you came. Really interesting origin story here. Aruna was an engineer, made the switch to go to become a lawyer, and went into the field of intellectual property and defensive ideas and understanding inventions and writing patents and figuring out the intricacies. But behind all of that was a story about how an inventor gets from point A in ideation to point B to developing something into a product or a service. And you were exceptionally good at figuring out that story and being able to bring it to the forefront so that you could defend an idea or put it forward so that it could be protected. And I think the interesting thing was you were looking at it like maybe a little backwards, but you didn't realize how awesome you were at connecting with people to get to the grit. Now, you would like to dive in and get to the details so that you can get to the meat really quickly. But that was also a strength of yours that I don't think you necessarily recognize. I mean, you have a superpower when it comes to connecting.
Thank you. I'm still discovering that every day.
Yeah, well, you have continued to do it, and like you said, you're killing it during a pandemic because you are bringing something unique to that space that I don't think a lot of attorneys really get or understand. And I do think that you have, kind of maybe gone beyond the transactional piece to understand that the relational piece is what gets people to want to stay and do long-term business with you. And that I think is really good, which is not necessarily to say was your fault because the firms that you were with was about kind of treat them and street them. So you were, performance based, or you were reviewed based on the number of hours you build and the transactional aspects of the business. And now you're in a position where you're actually saying, well, look, I can take a step back. I can do things the way I want them done, and I can get the outcomes that I know that I can get by getting a bit more involved and a little bit deeper in those individual relationships.
Yeah, that's so true. And that's exactly right. Unfortunately, in these times and days, law firms have evolved into churn 'em and burn 'em type shops. There really isn't time or energy or a lot of effort put into bringing up associates and giving them the time it takes to build the relationships, right?
Yeah.
It's, instead of selling a product or selling a good, you're selling attorney services. And you just get put into like the little hamster wheel and churn out as many applications as you can, bill as many hours as you can. The relationship part, that all gets handled by partners or whatever. So it's an unfortunate business model, but you're right. By being on my own now, I've got the time. I can put that time into building those relationships, and it's so rewarding. It's incredibly rewarding.
Absolutely. Well, and Mark, you can kind of understand that before you were in education, you were doing the marketing and sort of helping people build their brand and their messaging. But there's a similarity in terms of to how and why you were successful because you actually took the time to know your clients when you were working with them more so than, oh, you just want another trifold brochure, or you need a new logo, or you need to come up with a marketing campaign. That definitely, one of the things that impressed me about you early on was, what are you trying to accomplish? Right. And so the similarities between what Aruna does and what you were doing back then were very similar because you're really trying to help them, tell a different story than what they may have been able to see at the time. Right.
Yeah, and I think it goes to what Aruna is sort of saying about the short-term transactional nature
Yeah.
of certain business relationships and certain business models versus those longer-term relationships, right? And we know in any business, it is cheaper and more efficient to cultivate an existing relationship than it is to go out for new business. But everybody wants always to get new customers, right? And you don't pay enough attention to the people who you currently have and try to take care of them. And so, I think it's an interesting statement maybe on human psychology that we're always sort of questing for something else instead of really trying to maximize what we have. And what I've seen so many people do is if they really do focus intentionally on that existing set of relationships, and I think this is what the ripple really bears out, that then spreads phenomenally. And you end up getting, like the benefit of everything because you're getting new business without having to invest the time and the resources to try to go get it. It's coming to you literally.
Yep. Absolutely. Well, and Aruna, you most recently figured out not only is it that an important aspect, but also sticking up for yourself and finding your own voice is pretty key too, right?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Can you share that story without? I think it would be very helpful for people on the watching tonight.
Oh man, putting me on the spot here.
Is there an NDA?
Yeah, so sure. So, if it helps somebody, if my story helps somebody, I'm all about that, right? So I was at a really big firm prior to me going off on my own. And they're just, gosh, I don't even know where to start with that. I don't think I've actually had time to like really figure out how I want to share that story, but essentially, I was getting paid as a second year. I have eight plus years of experience, and I joined the firm as a second year, getting paid at a second year rate. I was there for about 15 months, a year and a half. And in that time, I helped land a pretty major client because I've got expertise in a certain area that nobody else at the firm really had. I was lucky enough to be part of the initial talks, really formed a relationship, a really good, positive, strong relationship with the in-house counsel for this client. Just really took on a lot of roles that were not second year type roles. I was on the diversity and inclusion committee. I there's just a lot there that I was taking on. And so I ended up getting brave, and I ended up starting to try and have a conversation with management. It really wasn't a conversation. It was more very one-sided, but I was like, hey guys, look, this is all that I've done. I'm bringing on my own clients. I'm growing my own practice. Look, I helped land this big client. The in-house counsel loves me. I'm actually the first go-to attorney here at the firm who's, writing these patent applications. How about we talk about me being raised up to something higher than a second level? I do have 8+ years of experience, but let's talk about maybe 5th year, 6th year. I'm not really like shooting for the stars here. I'll settle for the moon, and it just, man, the next thing I heard basically was like, it's not working out. See you later. Bye. And but through that process, I mean, that was really one of the first times that I started to like more speak up for myself and stand up for myself, like realizing, okay, they are going to keep paying me at a second year rate if I allow it, if I let that continue, right? I have to say something. I have to speak up for myself and ask for what I think I deserve, right?
Yeah.
So it was very empowering. I've got to say, it's very empowering. Like, you could view it from a lens of like, oh my gosh, that really sucked. But it's like, no, actually, it was very, very empowering to be able to have those conversations and to say those things and stand up for myself and say, look, I am awesome. Yes, I do deserve to be paid at a 5th or 6th year. Actually, I deserve to be paid at an 8th year level, but so yeah.
Well, I think, and I appreciate you sharing that. I think what I've seen in you is this massive growth in that self-confidence, not because you can have those conversations today, but because you know that when those conversations have to happen, you're worth every penny. And what's great about it is that you're now being in a position, right, where you can say, hey, look, this is what I know that I'm worth. And now I can sort of command that value. And now you're doing it under your own terms, right? Which is the most impressive aspect of what I've seen happen over the last few years for you, which is you're happier, you smile more, you still go through these little moments of, well, I don't know, but you come out of them so much quicker than you used to because you're a badass. And that's what's amazing about you.
Thank you. Yeah, I did just recently almost have to fire a client because of that, because they weren't paying me. And I was like, hey, what's going on? Like, pay up or like, we're done. And, they tried to be like, well, this is just how it is in the consulting world. It's 90+ days, till people get paid out. And I'm just like, okay. You're the only client I have that's like that. Every other client pays me up front, a retainer or next day, and they're so thrilled. They're so thrilled to have the help that I'm able to provide, right? Yep. They're so grateful. And so you guys are just kind of the exception here. And so I have to focus on the folks who are excited to work with me. And I didn't say this, but I'm excited to work with as well, right? Like, it's got to be like symbiotic. We can't have this one-way deal. And so, yeah, that was another example recently of where I stood up for myself and, hey, guess what? They were like, all right, we'll pay you. And the money was in the account the next day.
Yep. No, that was awesome. Actually, believe it or not, that was the story I was trying to get you to come up with, but the other one is just as good.
Yeah,
so
yeah,
it's
been a whole year of like so much growth and so much of like standing up for myself, which is not not my pattern from the past. So, so many moments.
Well, that's because you have value and you know what you bring to the table, and you shouldn't settle for anything less, right? So that's the beautiful thing about the growth that we've seen over the last year or so, and it'll only continue to be better. So
all thanks to you, Steve.
No, I don't think so. You did all the work. I just, kind of nudged you when you were going off the rails.
You're there to kick my ass when I needed it.
I've been known to do that occasionally, but you did all the heavy lifting, I promise. Well, listen, thank you so much for being here tonight. I really, really appreciate it. I mean, it's been amazing to get to spend this time with you over the last several years, to see where you've grown and what you're doing. And like I've told you before, I mean, the sky is the limit. I mean, you're going to do amazing things. And as a solo practitioner, I think you're finally going to be in a position where you can grow the kind of clients and relationships that you want, because you know exactly where you want to go and what you want to do with it. And so, keep just doing what you're doing. I'm so grateful. And it's an absolute honor to watch it.
Well, I'm just so thrilled that our paths crossed, Steve. So blessed and lucky to have you in my life.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Well, thank you so much again for being here tonight, and I will talk to you very soon. Okay.
All right. Take care.
All right. See you. Take care.
Nice to meet you.